Hi guys, how's it going? Hope you're all doing awesome. I'm doing great today. And today video is about one of the champs I leveled recent-ishly and I've been using a lot. If you've seen some of my other videos, you can see that I've used him in the videos, but today we'll do a little bit more of a deep dive, talk about it more in depth, look over the build, all that good stuff. And this super mystery champion that you definitely don't know who it is, even though it's in the thumbnail and title, is Mr. ShamWow, or Inquisitor Shamael. And I don't know if this is just me, but I have a tendency to give nicknames to champions only if it sticks. You can't force a nickname, of course, but I find it impossible not to call him ShamWow and think of those infomercials from like 20 years ago. I don't know if it was just like an American thing, but we were like bombarded with these in the States. You couldn't go like 10 minutes without seeing this.
It's gonna
on
smell.
TV.
See that? The most observed. We're gonna do this in real time. Look at this. Put on the spill, turn it over without even putting any pressure. 50% of the cola right there. You follow me, camera guy? The other 50%, the color starts to come up. No other towel's gonna do that. It acts like a vacuum. And look at this, virtually dry on the bottom. See what I'm telling you? ShamWow, you'll be saying wow every time.
I can't live without it. I just love it.
Oh my gosh, I don't even buy paper towels anymore.
If you're gonna wash your cars or any kind of vehicle, you'd be out of your mind not to own one of these.
All right, but guys, you know, 1995, use my code came up. I'm just kidding. I have no affiliation with ShamWow, of course. Honestly, I don't even think I've ever used a ShamWow, but yes, these commercials were everywhere. I cannot unsee them. It's just ingrained, scarred for life. Okay, but back to Mr. Shamil. So, he's a great champ, but I would say very situational champ. Like, if I started an alt account tomorrow and somehow I had a void shard and I pulled Inquisitor Shamael, it's probably not the champ that I level, because you need to get everything else going on your account before you're dealing with the situations that Shamil is super helpful in. So yeah, I've had this champ forever, did not level him until recently. I knew his time would come, but yeah, it's definitely down the road. So let's go over the kit. This is an attack champ, and you might be looking at my build and saying, K-Bop, this is the worst build I've ever seen on an attack champ. You have no attack, you have no speed, you have no crit rate, you have no crit damage. You are terrible. And yeah, I mean, fair enough. But you know, I'm going a different direction with it. I don't need an attack champ. I am absolutely blessed with nukers and damage dealers. So what I want him for is his unique kit, and I don't need the nuking. So we'll talk about all of that in a sec. Skills, A1, Wreak Revenge, he'll attack an enemy. He actually has a 50% chance to decrease the duration of a random buff of theirs by 1 turn. So that's actually kind of decent for an A1. I didn't really go into the accuracy because it's really this other stuff that I want to tap into, but you could definitely slap a little bit of accuracy on there and get some of these buff removal procs. Like, I've noticed that occasionally he'll remove it even though I don't have accuracy. So yeah, definitely not a useless A1 by any means. Cow the Horrors, and this is the one because yeah, we're gonna attack one enemy 3 times. We're gonna ignore 25% of their defense, ignore a further 25% for each buff on this champion. So, you know, obviously this can go to 100, ignoring all their defense. Plays Fear if you kill the guy. This is really, really scales hard, really hard hitting ability if you did build the attack. We haven't done that, so honestly, probably booking him was a waste for me because my Shamil does no damage at all. This is what we want though, the passive Dauntless. Each critical hit fills turn meter by 7.5%. Don't care about that either, actually. If for my situation, that's cool if you're a nuker who built crit rate. But this is the cool thing. Whenever an ally receives True Fear or True Fear debuff, this skill will instantly remove the debuff and fill turn meter by 15%. So, in short, if Shamil is on your team, nobody on your team can ever be feared. Ever. Not possible. He will instantly remove it and fill turn meter by 15%. And let's talk about the wording of this really quick. So this skill will instantly remove the debuff and fill the ally's turn meter by 15%. So you read this and you would correctly assume it's going to fill the turn meter of the person that he removed the debuff for. But in typical Plarium Raid Shadow Legend fashion, that is not how the skill works. It will actually, and this has been like years and they never bothered to rework it, so I don't really know what's up with that. But the way it actually works, it will remove the debuff from anybody, doesn't matter who it was, but the person who's getting the turn meter fill is always your leader. And if you think about it, it's kind of better that it works that way, because then, you know, you can manipulate this, you can play with this, you can place somebody strategic in your leader position who's going to take the most advantage of this incredible passive. And like I mentioned, you know, this is a little bit situational. Fear, this is not a debuff that you see in every boss fight. This is not a debuff that you see in every dungeon. This is probably not even a debuff that you see every day. But the situations that it appears in is just so good. So the reason I leveled him, and we are going to talk about other places that he's useful in the game. If you're not tackling this particular thing that I'm about to mention, that's fine. We'll talk about some other stuff later. So the place that I am using him is not the ShamWow commercial. It's Hydra. Because with his passive, he's just such a god at dealing with one of the most annoying heads. And then you can build him in a way that you're gonna deal with one of the other most annoying heads. So let's talk quickly about it. Fear head, fear guy, fear dude. Official name is the head of torment. That's a lovely name. It's just easier to be like fear bro. So fear bro. Every time you attack him, and also on his A1 when he attacks you, he places a fear. And it doesn't sound like a big deal, but this fear, it doesn't matter if you have Black Debuffs on, it doesn't matter if you have 1,000 resistance, it cannot be resisted, it cannot be blocked. This fear is going to happen. So, and that's the thing, you can't avoid attacking him because, you know, look at me, I've got Rezlovarg, I've got Artok, I've got Newt, I've got Ugo. I have all of these attacks that are attack everybody. And I want to use those attacks. I don't want to not use them. So it's impossible to not hit this guy. Oh, and I forgot to mention, important distinction. He won't place the fear if you're under Perfect Veil, which is like that's a pretty rare buff. You can't just, you know, find any old champion and they're going to place Perfect Veil. That's pretty rare. You know, like Duchess, Rector Drath, some other champions. So that's a pretty rare one. So it's definitely best to deal with it in a different way. So we're just embracing the fear. We're going to hit this guy. We're going to get feared. But what happens is, so like this, I just hit him. What's going to happen is that technically he feared my Rezlovarg, but Shamil instantly removed it, and he will counterattack every time he does this, right? So Shamil instantly removed it, Shamil counterattacked, and in turn, Shamil starts filling Rezlovarg's turn meter. And the way we can manipulate this, instead of trying to avoid Mr. Fear Guy over here, what I actually do is I want to hit him. Because he's like on my team now, right? Like he's helping me. He is getting me all this extra turn meter on my lead, and my Rezlovarg is just taking turn after turn. Like constant boost turn meter, boost turn meter, boost turn meter. Because what happens is Shamael counterattacks him, and theoretically he should be fearing Shamael, but Shamael's removing the debuff from himself also. So counterattack, counterattack, counterattack. So nobody on the team can ever be feared. If Shamil gets eaten, yes, that's a problem. People are going to start being feared. But it's amazing. It's like, it goes from you're scared of this head and you're so annoyed with it to like, you're hoping that when these heads die and they come back, you're like, oh, please be the fear head, please be the fear head, because it's making my nuker take so many more turns. We're doing 1 billion damage. You know, Rosalvar, increase speed, increase accuracy. I keep running through these buffs for my team. So he's on our team. He's a cool guy if Shamael is on the team. And then the other thing that we're doing is I built him, you know, my weird looking build here. I built him tanky. He has 60k HP. He has 2500 defense. He has 509 accuracy. But there's a reason for all of this. And that's because I'm using him as my buff tank. So, other annoying head situated right next to Head of Torment. They're probably like best friends, you know, the two most annoying heads right here. I'm sure they know each other quite well. So this is Buff Guy, or the Head of Mischief. And his thing is, every time he attacks, he is going to look at your team, he's going to spot the person with the most buffs, and he's going to attempt to steal their buffs. Keyword is attempt, because I have over 500 resistance. So I can resist the buff steal. And let's watch that happen. I mean, hopefully it happens. So he tried, resisted, he failed. He did not steal a bajillion buffs. And it's even worse. He steals your turn meter too. He can take a bunch of turns in a row because he just keeps stealing buffs, increase his own turn meter, stealing somebody else's buffs. He'll just go on like a buff stealing rampage, run through your whole team. It's very sad. It's also very scary because I have increased accuracy and increased speed. So like he's going faster. He has more accuracy to steal buffs. It's terrifying. So my advice to you, do not get your buff stolen. Use black buffs like Ugo. Use a buff tank as extra security like Inquisitor Shamael. So I have 500 plus resistance. And when I built him, I sort of kept in mind, like, I'm looking at doing Nightmares someday. This is Brutal, by the way. The video that I'm showing you guys, that's a run on Brutal. So, if you have 500 res on Nightmare or Brutal, there is a very small 5% chance that he will steal your buffs. So it does exist. Very slim chance, and hopefully you can go through enough of the run without getting unlucky to get a good score. So there you have it. I've got Mr. Shamil, who is an epic, simultaneously locking down two of the most obnoxious heads in the entire fight. And not only that, but enabling my damage dealers to do more damage. So this is the Brutal run. This goes on for half an hour. This is high score of about 50 million. The Brutal 1 key is like 30. So this is a 1 key team that he's in. And yeah, absolutely amazing God tier champ in Hydra. He was so helpful to me because if he wasn't here, these champs would just be getting feared every time they do anything. So great champ, have been loving him there. So let's go back to the build, and hopefully now it all makes a bit more sense to you. I love when you put resistance on champions, they get like crazy player power, so he looks like he's so awesome, but it's really not, you know, super difficult. I used the resilience set because you farm that from Faction Wars, right? Like I have 1 billion, you know, materials to make this set, so. And it's a fun champ to build because the thing about your buff tank is I want him to be as slow as possible, and it's not often that you get to build a champ as slow as possible. Usually it's a little bit stressful and hard because this is a brutal Hydra fight. Like I want my champs to be up more like 250, you know, not 140. But that's the thing. We want him slow because if he's slow, it means that his buffs are expiring the slowest. Like, look here. He's still got 1, 2, 3, 4 buffs on. Everybody else has like 2, 3, 2, 2, 3 because they're all faster than him. Their buffs, you know, they're going through their turns. Their buffs are expiring. But not him. These buffs just stick on until, you know, until they don't. So that's the thing about being the slow. So since he is so gosh darn slow, that allows you to build up this res, build up this HP, build up this defense. So yeah, like I said, I did a lot of resilience because it's a set that I just have a ton of it lying around. That's not 16. Let's go for it. Flat HP, perfect. So it's the resistance chest, resistance banner, HP, 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 defense on the gloves, you know, go for those tanky stats, resistance, HP percent, defense percent, try to avoid too much speed. It sounds weird, but I actually had to make him slower. He was like 170 and it wasn't slow enough. I don't know, you know, the buffs weren't hanging out as long as I wanted them to be. So you're looking at my new, now even slower ShamWow. And then other sort of tip here. So he's our buff tank. He's slow because we want all these buffs to hang out. And then another safeguard is you get these blood shield rings. Like from CBC, if you know, it drops these, which gives wearer a shield worth 5% of damage dealt after attacking. So it is literally, here it is. This tiny little white line at the end of his HP bar. It is the most pathetic little shield you've ever seen, but it's giving him that extra buff. It's ensuring that he has more buffs than everybody else, even though it is absolutely pitiful. You know, he hits for like a couple hundred or something because I've built him as full tank. So this shield is probably like, you know, it's some just not even worth numbering mention, but it gives him these more buffs, and that's all we needed to do. It's perfect. So if you've got one of those lying around, definitely slap that on there. Extra buff for you guarantees that you're being the buff tank. And then, yeah, so slow, lots of resistance. If you were concerned that there were actually buffs that needed to be removed, you could invest in accuracy a little more than I have. And then the other thing that is nice, I actually, I think this is the only time this has happened to me. I got something useful out of a soulstone. I actually got like 3-star Shamael awakening, which I have since upgraded to 4-star. And he is an amazing applier of cruelty because he's constantly doing all of this counter-attacking from the fears, from other debuffs being placed. So he's amazing at applying this. You know, you'll decrease everybody's defense so quickly. So hoping to get him to the max upgrade for that someday. We'll get there, but for now he's decreasing everybody's defense up to 10%. And this is also great for his first ability, even though we're not really doing any damage with it. We're hitting 3 times, so you can apply, you know, cruelty, cruelty, cruelty back to back like that on the separate hits of it. So great mastery, or I'm sorry, great awakening for him. If you can happen to pick one up, awesome. He's a great applier of cruelty. And then while we're here, let's take a look at the masteries. Support tree, don't really care because, you know, we don't need that accuracy, which is typically what you kind of go down this tree for, is like accuracy heal type things. Don't need any of that stuff. So I took him down offense. And I went to War Master. You get the bonus damage, you know, pretty classic mastery, nothing crazy. And I did watch some videos on it before I did this, you know, getting some advice of content creators and other Hydra players and stuff. And so technically, Giant Slayer, War Master, you can only use once per skill, right? So when he's doing like these million little counterattacks in a row, it can only War Master once. Whereas if you use Giant Slayer, it could, you know, if you were lucky, it could do it every time. But I was sort of watching stuff about it, and people were saying, yes, Giant Slayer will do more damage in the end, but they were saying that you'll actually kill the Fearhead too quickly because you will be doing more damage. And like we talked about, Fearhead is your best friend. He's on your team. He's a cool guy. If you have Shamil, you know, asterisk, only if Shamil is present. So you don't want to be doing a lot of damage, actually. At least that's what they said. I was a little curious to try it because, you know, you hear things like more damage and you're like, ooh, more damage. So I'm almost kind of tempted to try it, but you know, it's been working for me, War Master, so no reason to fix something that hasn't shown itself to be broken. You could also skip the War Master totally, and if you need help, like, you can see, you know, all this gear is 6-star Lego. If you need a little help with the gear, like getting this resistance to 500 or 400 or whatever you've decided is the resistance level that you need for what you're doing, you could come down here and you could get Unshakable res plus 50. There's no shame in doing that. You know, you're only getting like this tiny little amount of damage from War Master, so yeah, definitely come down here, get 50 more resistance if you need to. That's perfect, nothing wrong with doing that. You know, you can get whatever you feel like you need here. So that's what I did with him. And other places in the game where you can use. Of course, he is the absolute Hydra god. I love him there. It's been awesome. Oh, and I was going to show also, like we said, you know, that was my brutal team where that's capable of doing like 50 million. He's been in my hard team. That team's done 120 million, over 100 million. You know, like, look at how much damage Razelvarg is doing with all those extra turns. So he is an attack champ, but I mean, I've got other people doing that job. You know, Razelvarg, Newt, Artak, these are insane damage dealers. So I just need him to support these guys, basically, and enable them to not get feared into oblivion and do their thing. Okay, so other places in the game where you can use him. And like we kind of mentioned earlier, it's a situational thing, right? You're not often in these situations where you're just like, oh my goodness, I'm being feared so much. It is situational, but it's good where it's good. So I was testing, I don't know why I left this. We'll leave Mr. Shamael up. I was testing earlier. It is the Dark Fae rotation. I was just kind of messing with it. This is not the team I use per se. I'm not saying, hey, this is an amazing team, you should definitely use this team. You know, this is a boss fight. There's a million ways to beat any boss fight in the game. I was just kind of messing with it, and I threw Shamael in here because the thing about this boss fight is, so she steals your team, right? You have to like fight your team. I'm manualing just to make sure nothing goes horribly wrong. We've got all these little counterattacks from the enemy Shamil or whatever. Newt kills everybody. I'm honestly surprised how much that does to my team. So, the issue with this fight for me has always been, if you can't fully cannot fully control her turn meter, she starts stealing back members of your team. And so that's why it's, you know, the most common strategy for this fight is that you completely control her turn meter. You stop her from doing anything. It definitely can be beaten without that. Like, I've beaten it without doing that, you know, every rotation. But the thing is, when she starts stealing people back, she will fear your team. Like, you can see, true fear, true fear. She's like fearing my entire team. And on certain teams in the past that I've used, my team was like 50-50. Because if she steals like Hefrag, like I have Hefrag, I'm not using him in this fight. But if she steals like Hefrag and my whole team is feared and all the fears proc, Hefrag is just going to kill my entire team. So if we can all not get feared, you know, we can easily kill this Razelvarg once Shamael's done with his little counterattacking. So he cleansed my team of all the fears. We can kill this Razelvarg. We can go back to doing the fight. And yeah, you know, this goes on for a bit. And she's dead. And that was floor 80 hard. I've been slacking a bit this rotation, so I haven't actually unlocked the final boss yet. Either today or tomorrow. But yeah, so that was Doom Tower hard. You know, he cleansed all the fears when she tried to steal our team back. So yes, anywhere in the game you're getting feared, there are like Doom Tower rooms that are just filled with like Mixhalad, you know, and he's just fearing your whole team and like leeching you, and just like he'll kill you all if you're not careful. So yeah, just throw him in there. And then guess what also? Faction Wars, Sacred Order, boss fight, which I can't go because I don't even have keys. But so Faction Wars, Sacred Order, boss fight, guess what? It is the one who has the chance to fear your team on the A1. It's like 40% chance to fear. Absolutely. So he's perfect in your Faction War boss fight. So fear is, it's not the debuff of the century, you know. It's not something you encounter every day, especially not in PvP. I'm sorry, PvE. But yeah, it's out there, and when it hits you, it can be super annoying. So there's nobody better than Shamil in the game at dealing with it. Those are the places that I use him. And like I said, I mean, if you want to build him as a nuker, he hits hard. You should totally go for it. That's just not what I need at the current time on my account. I need somebody who's the support, the guy who's backing up all of my champs who are the ones doing damage. But if you need him for the damage roll, you know, go for it. I have a second one in my vault somewhere. I have a dupe, and I kind of want to try the damage thing. So maybe I'll go for that next time. But I think I have ShamWowed myself out. Hopefully you are all ShamWowed as well. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day and take care of yourselves. Goodbye.